Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and I've got one incredible broadcast for you today. You are watching the Ziegler Zone. And if you're watching this broadcast, please share this broadcast. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe while you're there. Today, we're going to talk about a friend of mine, National Speakers Association, and Tiran Jackson's got a very interesting story. It was his 15th anniversary. We're talking some years ago. He and his wife, Malika, were celebrating their 15th anniversary on a cruise in the Bahamas, a day cruise, a day tour. What happened, Tyran?
Jim, I wish I could tell you. Sometimes, things happen to us. Life throws us curveballs, things we never see coming our way. And Malika and I, we were celebrating our vacation, thinking everything was fine. And we did something that normal people on vacation do. We went on a little excursion. You start.
I've done it. My wife and I have done it. A day trip. We did it at the Caymans. We did it in the Bahamas. I understand.
Yep. You don't think anything about it. You don't think anything about it.
No.
Well, we own this
nice looking boat, right? Nice looking boat.
It was a nice little 40-foot little catamaran that we thought was going to be fine. It seats 20 to 30 passengers, no problem. People do this on a regular basis. We got up one morning. Actually, we're coming up on the anniversary. This will be 6 years ago Sunday. We were on the third day of our vacation, and we had decided we were going to go on this trip, this excursion, and we had two options: either do a full day trip or the half day trip. We did the 4-hour tour, and 5 minutes into the ride, as we took off, life changed forever. We were sitting right above the fuel tank, and unbeknownst to us,
wait a second. You're sitting above the fuel tank.
Yep. Didn't realize it. You're sitting on the boat. You're sitting in the chair, in the bleachers on the boat. So you don't think anything about it. But we happened to be sitting right above where one of the fuel tanks was. And there was my background is engineering. So I used to design all kinds of things related to moving vehicles all the time. The line that was going from the fuel tank to the outboard engine was undersized. And so it was having to withstand more pressure than what it should for the couple years that it was operating before. Well, we got on there the day that it actually sprung a leak, and
it blew up. It
blew up. And so, that's what happened. I found myself waking up face down on the surface of a burning boat. Never thought about anything of the such ever happening. My wife was thrown into the ocean. And by the time I came to, my right leg was on fire, literally. As I was coming to, there was a second boat. There was a boat that was doing the 8-hour tour, and they weren't too far away from where I was. And so passengers on that boat obviously saw what happened. They were yelling to me, "Get off the boat, get off the boat, get off the boat." And I'm thinking to myself, I got to get off of this boat. Now, I glance down at my left foot and I see my ankle bone. I see my foot just dangling, blood all over.
This is your left foot?
This is my left foot, yes. My right leg is on fire. My left foot is severed to a point where I can't do anything. And all I try to do is push myself up, but I crumble. Try to push myself up again. I didn't know it at the time. My left collarbone was broken in 4 places. So the only thing I could do to keep from burning up literally right then was take my right hand, put my fingertips in the ridges on the surface of that boat, and drag myself about 4 or 5 feet until I pass out again. Now, when I come to, passengers from that second boat, the water was still pretty shallow. They actually swam over to pull me off of the edge of the boat. And I'm grateful that they did, because about 3 minutes after they got me off, the second fuel tank exploded.
Oh, no.
So I definitely wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for people, risking their lives to try to save me. I was the only person left on the boat still Other passengers were able to jump off, and my wife and one other lady, they were thrown into the ocean in a different direction. And when they got me over to that second boat, my first question was, where is Malika? Where is my wife? Well, there happened to be another boat in the area. They picked up Malika and this one other young lady, and they got them to shore, and they got them to an ambulance to go to this clinic. For me, when the boat that I was placed on got back to shore, there was no ambulance. There was nothing there to treat me. So what I had to do was I essentially waited until a good Samaritan. Now, remember, this is in the Bahamas.
Oh, come on.
Rural place. Yeah, this is in Exuma. And so there's no medical treatment or facilities, or they're not prepared for this type of thing. So it ended up being a civilian who had a pickup truck, and they put me on a piece of plywood to ride in the bumpy roads of the Bahamas to get to this clinic where they could actually do something. As
oh
they
my gosh, here you are on a plank in the back of a pickup truck. I mean, This isn't an ambulance. This isn't a sky lift. It's, no.
I'm put on a piece of plywood on a bumpy road on a pickup truck.
And you still don't know what's happened to your wife.
I'm in shock. I don't know what's happened. There was one person who was on the other boat who we had started talking with a little bit as we were on the bus ride to the marina, and he joined me on the back of that pickup truck. And so he tried to talk to me and keep me calm. And I gave him the room number that we were in, the safe code where our passports were, my mom and my sister's phone number, so he could try to reach out to them. And I'm glad he did, because that started the ball in getting me.
So you got your family involved.
So my family got involved through him. And so he was able to contact them immediately and let them know, you need to get down here.
Where's your children at this point?
So the day before we went to the Bahamas, I dropped our son off. He was 12 years old at the time, and I took him to Nashville, Tennessee to stay with his aunt and uncle. When I dropped him off there, I told him, son, don't worry. Mom and dad will be back in 1 week. I'll be back there to pick you up. And he was used to us going on vacations and leaving him with family from time to time. And he was good because he got to terrorize their dog and play with his cousins and eat ice cream late at night, all of these things that he was looking forward to doing because mom and dad aren't around. And so he was in good hands. But to have to do something later, I ended up having to call him and tell him over the phone, your mom's never coming home. Jim, this is
let me ask you, when did they inform you Malika had passed?
So getting back to the story. So when they finally got me on that pickup truck to the clinic where Malika was, they put me on a stretcher and wheeled me in. And as they wheeled me in, that was the first time I heard Malika. I could hear her pain.
Was she still alive at that point?
She was still alive at that point. She was yelling. She was in agony, and I couldn't do anything about it. They had her in one bay. They had another passenger in this second bay, and then they put me in this third bay. Now, they had one doctor there. And I was trying to listen as close as possible as to what was going on with Malika. And eventually that one doctor finally got to me. So I asked him, how was my wife? How was Malika? He told me that I was messed up pretty bad and this other passenger was messed up pretty bad. And what they were going to do were put me on an airplane and send me to the good hospital in Nassau, and that Malika would come later. So when he told me that, I was thinking, oh, she must not be hurt as bad as I am, because they're sending me and this other passenger to the hospital and she's going to come later. So they prepped me. Now, I have no indication of how Malika's doing, but I'm thinking that she's okay. They prepped me to get on the stretcher, go on the ambulance.
You've got to be in some great pain right now.
I'm in horrible pain. Look, Jim, I had a broken right foot, 3rd-degree burns on my right leg, a fractured pelvis, a fractured vertebrae, bruised ribs, broken collarbone, and I've been in and out of consciousness 5 times, as well as my left foot just dangling.
You're like me. I would still be looking for my wife.
I'm looking for my wife. But I have this sense of optimism because the doctor's telling me that she'll be coming later. So I'm thinking, okay, she must not be hurt very bad, and I will get to see her later. They put me on the airplane, fly me to Nassau, get me to the hospital, put me into emergency surgery, where they say they're going to try to reattach my foot. And all I'm asking them is my wife on her way here yet? I wake up. It's 6 hours after the accident happened, Jim. And I'm in ICU. And as I wake up, a nurse is in the room with me. And I ask her, is my wife here yet? The nurse leaves the room and she gets two doctors. And two doctors come in and I ask them, is Malika here yet? And then they look at me confused. They look at each other and then they walk out the room. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the most obvious question I could be asking. Is Malika here yet? And then after about 5 minutes, they finally come back in the room and they tell me, Mr. Jackson, we hate to inform you, but your wife didn't make it. That she died at that clinic, and they didn't want to tell me that before they put me on that airplane and put me in emergency surgery.
So your wife died at the clinic before you flew to the other hospital in Nassau. What island were you on?
I was in Exuma.
Okay.
So yeah, Exuma, small islands. It's south of Nassau, but they're known for people coming swimming with the pigs.
Been there, understand?
Yep. So that's where I was. And
so how was the treatment in Nassau?
So this gets in a whole nother level of issues related to it. Treatment in Nassau was bad. They tried to reattach my foot. My foot had gotten infected. Infection started going through my body. As I was there the next day, I was feeling worse and worse, and my body was starting to break down. I saw the EKG monitor over my head, and in a matter of 4 hours, I saw my vital signs go from green to yellow to red. And they weren't doing anything to stop the infection. They were just giving me tramadol to lessen the pain. And so I was at a place, Jim, where I was broken physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and I was in true state of despair. I thought that I was coming to grips with the fact that my life was about to be over, and that the next time I closed my eyes was going to be the last time I closed my eyes. I realized that they weren't doing anything to try to save me there. And on top of that, by that next afternoon, my mom and my sister, they had gotten down to the Bahamas, and they saw how bad they were treating me, and they were trying to do everything that they could to get me out of there. But some things were happening in the background where somehow my passports were missing. And
come on.
Yeah. So now they can't get me out the country. And so a lot of things were happening where it became clear to me that it wasn't in their best interest for me to be able to survive and get out of there. And so a lot was going on in the background, but no, all they were doing were feeding me. They were feeding me flour and water, and they were giving me pain medication and not stopping the issue, what was killing me. And so I thought the next time I closed my eyes would be the last time I closed my eyes. I woke up the next morning. Now it's 2 days after the accident, and there was a lot being done by the U.S. Embassy, and it was a lot of fighting going on in the background. But I basically was confiscated from the hospital bed, put on a stretcher, and put on an air ambulance to fly from the Bahamas to Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay, now you got some good treatment. Now you got some good treatment.
And they saw what happened. It was international news. They saw it. They felt bad. They saw that I was still alive and that my wife had passed. And they said they wanted to do whatever they could to make sure I had a chance of living. And as soon as we touched down there, they told my mom and my sister that they've got to do whatever they can to ensure that I survive. I went into emergency surgery. I wake up, half of my left leg is gone. Go through 9 surgeries in a matter of 5 days to start putting some of those other things back together.
So they amputated your left leg.
Yeah, they had amputated my left leg. They had to stop the infection. And plus my foot was so gone that there was no chance.
Now I have seen you walking around. You don't look like you.
I don't look like
you're handicapped in any way.
I don't look like what I've been through. And that's part of why I give people hope and inspire them, Jim, and give them a reason to believe that no matter what you go
your
through.
Story inspires me. Okay, so I interrupted your story. Now, okay, I'm into this story. I hope the viewers are into this. Yeah. Now, okay, so you got half your left leg amputated. You're in Fort Lauderdale. you're getting good. What's the Bahamas doing in the meantime?
The Bahamas is trying to figure out how to not make this look like as bad of a tragedy as it is. Now, my wife was the only death. There was one other young lady that was horribly injured. She ended up having both of her legs amputated. And then there was one other person who was injured, but her injuries were relatively light in comparison. There were 10 of us on the boat, and the other 6, they were all right because they weren't on the side where the fuel tank where the original explosion occurred. So they had cuts and minor injuries, but they were all fine. But at that point in time, it was a level of self-preservation. They did not want to hurt the tourism and the meal ticket that the Bahamas has by having.
Oh, I can now I got it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some meat to this story, Jim. And so they were trying to come up with all kinds of spin to not make it seem as bad as it truly was.
How could they do that? What could they? There's no covering this up.
Look, Jim, if I tell you this, look, they wanted me to die in that hospital. That's the reality of it. They didn't want me to be able to live and talk about it. And so that was part, and that's still an issue that I'm dealing with. But the reality of it was they didn't want anybody who experienced it to the level that I did. It's me and one other person, a young lady who had both of her legs amputated, to be able to talk about what happened during this experience. So they like I said, they stopped treating my infection and just gave me pain medicine, hoping that I would die off faster.
Oh my gosh! So now you've had your left leg amputated. What other injuries did they treat?
So while I was in Florida, what they did was they repaired my right foot. I've got screws and pins in my right foot because my right foot was broken. I had to get a skin graft put on my right leg because I had 3rd-degree burns on my right leg. I've got a titanium plate and screws up here in my shoulder. I can't walk through any airport or any metal detector without it going off. So,
you are the bionic man.
I am. I got this prosthetic leg that, like you said, if you saw me in pants, you never know I would have.
I saw the photos with the prosthetic leg, and I'm thinking, you don't you don't walk that way, you don't look that way. I mean, I would never suspect you were handicapped to meet you on the street.
Look, I am a testament, and I know you're a spiritual person. Look, God can pull you through a lot of things that you don't imagine. And so, if you saw me at my worst, Jim, you would say that there's no way he's going to ever get back. The doctors told me when I was in Florida that if I was lucky, I would be able to walk after like 8 or 10 months, and I would always have a noticeable limp, that it would look like that I had this. But I was, and it was a tremendous journey, but I was walking with a prosthetic after 3.5 months. And I was running 5Ks 8 months after the accident. And I had never done anything like that. I learned how to swim with one leg, believe it or not. And so, these are things that I never would have even imagined with 2 legs, with 2 good legs. But going through what I went through and being able to find that resilience, I talk about resilience and being able to find.
Okay, so you are a professional speaker. You're doing speeches, which I'm a professional speaker. That's how I met you.
Yep.
And so you're doing speeches on resilience.
That's what I do now. Yes, I speak about resilience, overcoming life's obstacles, dealing with the challenges that we face. I speak about mental health as well, because I went through depression, anxiety, survivor's remorse, PTSD, all of these things, and never had done any therapy.
Okay, like survivor's remorse. That's
yes.
Like what if I hadn't booked the tour? Exactly. What if I had been sitting where Malika was sitting and she had been somewhere else?
Exactly.
Why did we choose those seats?
Yep. The guilt that you feel after going through something like this is it can break the strongest person down, Jim. And so these were some of the battles that I had to face. There was a point in time, I got to tell you this story, Jim. When I was in that hospital in Fort Lauderdale. And this was after I'd gone through 5 surgeries in one day. And I'm listening for God's word to me and trying to understand why this had to happen to us. It was clear. He told me that I had to be resilient, and that he said he could have taken my life 3 times. When the boat exploded, when all my vital signs went from green to yellow to red, he could have taken me after I went through all those surgeries and I was still unstable, but he was keeping me here for a reason. He told me I wasn't going to go back to being an engineer, that the life that I knew, what was my normal, was not going to be my new normal, and there was going to be a new path and a new journey and something completely different that I never thought I'd be doing as I move forward in this phase of life. But he told me this, that resilience is not about regaining what was lost, but about reshaping what still remains. And it's what you do with what still remains that creates the narrative for the rest of your life. And so,
that is so true. I'm a cancer survivor.
Yes, yeah.
And lost 100 pounds, laid on an operating table one time. Actually, it wasn't an operating table, it was a chemo overdose. And the doctor said, "Hurry up, we're losing him." And they're talking about me. They're talking about me. I'm wait a minute, wait, no. No, you're mistaken. And resilience. I never ever felt sorry for myself.
Yep.
I never ever complained. And it was so funny. My wife was standing there when I came out of the first surgery, and there was a 50-50 chance I might not have come out of that surgery.
Yep.
So she's standing there. I was in intensive care for 14 days. And I look up at my wife and I said, "Who are you?" She looked at me for a minute. Then she said, "You're messing with me, aren't you?"
I believe it. That sounds like you, Jim. So
that is 100% me. Yeah. Resilience. A lot of people have depression after a catastrophic event in their life. I'm going to call this a catastrophic event in your life. A lot of people have a catastrophic event. Their spouse passes. They lose a limb. They diagnosed with a terminal disease. All kinds of things that require resilience.
Yep.
Tell me what your audience consists of.
So my audience really, like you just said, so many people are going through so many challenges. But who I really work with and who I truly cater to are those who, like you said, they've lost a close loved one and they feel stuck and paralyzed. They don't know how to live life without that other person. They start to get overwhelmed with depression. That anxiety kicks in and they're fearful of the future and don't know how to, they don't want to move forward with life. I've talked to people and those who have suicidal thoughts after everything has started to break down around them. These are some of the true emotions and feelings that people have after going through this significant pain. I talk to those who are going through, a divorce or some type of, like you said, loss of a limb. Some of my clients are amputees as well, who are trying to mentally get themselves prepared for, you're grieving, not being who you once were. I talk to those. I have a lot of my business called Reborn Resilient, because I was reborn that day that boat explosion happened. And, if it wasn't for resiliency,
Reborn Resilient. And you're a Christian, I take it.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm a Christian. I'm not the poster boy for the Methodist religion. You can definitely find some flaws in me. I'm still a work in progress, but I am a Christian.
We all are. Yep.
So I can recall when I blew into Atlanta in 1982. I was broke. I was divorced. I was depressed. I was angry.
Mm-hmm.
My credit was ruined. When I got divorced, I jumped on a motorcycle and went to California and hung out with the hippies and didn't pay any of my bills.
Yeah.
I completely dropped out. And when I reemerged, when I resurged, I made several decisions on that drive from Jacksonville to Atlanta in the middle of the night, and decisions that I was, because I had my mattresses tied to the roof. I was in the car business. I'm driving what they call a buy here, pay here car.
Okay.
I mean, here I've been a radio executive. I had been an executive. I've been a famous DJ, and here I was on rock bottom. And I pulled myself out of that. So many people can't, or haven't arrived at that point. But as I drove to Atlanta that night, I decided two things. Number one, I will be the ultimate success I'm capable of being. I would read every book, I'd attend every seminar, I'd model myself after successful people, and I would eliminate the losers, the whiners, the wimps, the criminals, the has-beens out of my life. Get rid of bad people, embrace good people. And the second decision I made that night, that more powerful than the first, I would study my profession as surely as if I was studying for a master's degree in any other profession.
Yep.
Like I said, I read all the books. I attended all the seminars. I was a millionaire within 5 years. Right. Met my wife, began, my life was reborn at that point.
It takes, so I want to say this, Jim, it takes a tremendous amount of will, and it takes a commitment beyond what others can imagine to be able to make that decision and actually execute it, to go through and make it happen.
Decision. How do you help people that way? So, I know you do. I know you're a speaker, but you're paid to speak, but you are on a mission.
Yep.
I know you're on a mission. I feel that about you.
So most of my primary keynote is called the Roadmap to Resilience. The roadmap is an acronym, and the D is for decision. So it's ironic that you brought that up, but we have these choices that we have to make in our lives. And oftentimes people either let life happen to them and let the decision and don't take ownership of that decision. But then the other part of it too is a lot of people don't have clarity on where they want to go and what it takes to get there. So the way that I help people is to help expose them or talk through options that they either are deliberately ignoring and don't want to think about and do, or either give them more insight and ask those questions to make them really have to be true to who they are. Because when I went through my recovery, I had to dig deep and find out who Tiran was. At 40 years old, I wasn't the same person that I was at 25 when I got married. And so, when you start to realize that, look, I got to operate different, that I've got different challenges and I've got to find a different way to solve those problems.
You had to reinvent yourself.
And that's where I was reborn, in a sense. The version
you reinvented who Tiran was.
Yep. I did. I have. But that was necessary for me to adapt and be able to not just survive, but to thrive with this, with this sudden change. So what I try to help others do is make that decision that's going to reinvent them into being the person that they want. You had a commitment towards being successful and saying, I will not let this failure hold me down and keep me down. But there are, Jim, you're the alpha dog. You're few and far apart where people can commit to themselves to do that. And I'll be honest, I wasn't strong enough on my own to do that. But at the same time, I became stronger and stronger as I recovered. It started getting small wins. It started seeing that I could do things I didn't think. And then started realizing there is something about, you can't see all my core values up here, but consistency and the discipline and being able to implement those.
I see that, yes.
Yeah. So when you have that will and that mindset that I am not gonna let what has happened to me define me, then you become powerful in a whole nother manner. And most people don't realize that until you point it out or bring it out to them. So I help them realize that they can do more than what they think, but it comes back to that choice, to that decision. And so, and my book is my primary book. My first book is called Choosing Resilience. choosing. That's a choice. That's a decision that you have to make.
Choosing resilience.
Choosing
okay,
resilience.
It's a choice. Okay,
It
it doesn't just happen to you.
No. You have
got
to
to step out
make
there.
that decision. Yes. So I'm a firm believer in how important it is that our circumstances don't define us and stop us from being able to make the decisions to move forward powerfully.
I did 28. My wife and I. My wife is my rock. I mean, my wife, her and I had been in business since 1986. I left the car business. I had set world records. I was well known. I took that fame in the car business and translated it into my own business. I came home from a job, and we had a pay renegotiation, and I wasn't going to take a pay cut. So I came home on my motorcycle. I turned in my car and came home on my motorcycle, had my cardboard box, all my personal possessions in it. I come out, I said, I'm going to start a company. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a consulting car dealers and training. And she said, who else is doing this? I said, nobody. I'm creating an industry. I'm creating something new. So I had to promise her within 3 months I would go back into the car business if I was not successful.
Yep.
And I flew to Detroit and came back with $1 million contract with Ford Motor Company.
That's big right there. That's success, though. But look, listen to yourself, Jim. What you're saying is you had a unstoppable belief in yourself, and you were determined.
You teach that, don't you? You teach that.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to have that. Look, like I said, you're few and far apart. There's no more alpha dogs out there. But what I'm saying is really that most of us are not wired in that way. Some people are, and some of us have to be trained. We have to be taught, and we have to be encouraged to think that we can do the things that we don't realize that we can do. And that's where I help people. That's why I help show them that. So you were committed to making your dreams come true. And I'm determined for the same, and I want others to realize that. You don't know the power that you have within yourself until you get out there and do it.
What type of corporations or what type of organizations are hiring you?
So I get a wide range of people who reach out to me or who I reach out to in order to speak with. I just did a talk with Southern Company. So, a gas and electrical company that needs some inspiration and motivation for their leadership. It was for a leadership event, showing that, to be a leader in the corporate world, you need to be resilient. You have to have skills of resiliency, and you have to be able to direct other people who may not be that resilient. So being able to strengthen the team effectively is part of what I work with them. As you can imagine, I get a lot of faith-based opportunities that come my way from my testimony and my story. And so that's one area, one niche in which I speak a lot at. I also do some things with colleges as well to help build these students up as far as when they get ready to get out there into the real world and have to face life's challenges. And I like I said, life is going to throw you curveballs. I try to let them know that up front. So, all you can do is be as strong and be as prepared as you possibly can in order to deal with that. And then I do things with government. I've done some government work, some military work, spoke to the Air Force, a bunch of pilots.
I know suicides are up
in
the veteran world.
Yep.
You're doing any of that work?
I've done. So actually, I did something with the Air Force base last year. It was for their resiliency day, but one of the things that they deal with is people with suicide tendencies, and so it was part of their suicide prevention week, where I was one of the people. And it's a few other nationally known bureaus that I can't mention, but they have these situations where their people are so stressed and they're going through so much, and they've had suicides. And so I've been brought to help reveal to people that there is so much more to live for and so much more to do, but also to take that step and be aware of your mental health.
What is your website, by the way?
It is rebornresilient.com.
Okay, reborn. Okay. I'm going to type that out for a second. Continue on. Who else are you speaking to?
Yeah. So like I said, it's varying from different places. I've spoken with Fulton County government here in the Atlanta area to basically help them build their whole community up as far as learning to be more resilient in their everyday practical lives. I've done talks for a number of different places, for Porsche, as far as helping to build some of their leadership up and showing them basically an assessment to determine how resilient they are and how they can become more resilient as a whole. So that's really where I see my niche at being able to. Let's respell that, Jim.
I'm going to have to I'm going to have to respell that. I saw that.
People misspell resilient all the time, so I didn't realize
how
difficult of a word.
Resilient, spell it for me.
RESILIENT.
ENT. Okay.
ENT. Yep.
ILENT. Okay. Hey, you're not dealing with a dummy here. I'm a high school graduate.
Look, you HSG. I already know the OG HSG.
How about that?
Oh, come on, Jim. We got to get it right. There's an I after the L as well. So it's ILIENT.
Okay. You know what? You and me going back and forth like this, we're definitely making sure people spell it correctly.
Yep. Look. You're going to have people looking for me, Jim, and they're not going to find me because we got to get that spelling right. But these are the people. There we go.
Don't mess with me right now. Is that right?
That's right. You got it, Jim. So we're good now. But
okay, I'm gonna leave that up there for a while.
Okay, good. But no, Jim, I find myself being, and I speak to some youth as well. I've been asked to be a part of several pre-college programs, things just to give the kids motivation, and also to a bunch of teachers who are preparing themselves to go back into the school year. So it really varies, but I'm finding more of my niche to be in this corporate space where you've got a lot of different external factors from outside as well as internal chaos within the corporation, and they need just a little bit of a jolt to get them moving in the right direction and being stronger. So
I got to tell you a story.
Go ahead.
My very first professional speech, or I guess it was a seminar, maybe, was in the 70s. And we're going back, but before I was in the car business, before I was as a professional speaker, this is how I became a professional speaker. I lived in an apartment with a roommate. We lived in a singles development. We were young guys that were, so many women lived in that apartment complex. It was just wild. So anyway, and he said to me, he said, "Jim, the rent's due in about 3 days. You have the rent, don't you?" I said, "Well, not actually. I got to go get it." He said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I don't know yet, but I've got about half a tank in the Cordoba. If I don't come back, I didn't get the money." I jumped into Cordoba and I came back a couple hours later and said, "Jim, the rent's $200, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I got $3,500.
Okay.
So, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, I went to Universal Life, big building in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a speech I'm going to be doing to their executives." And he said, "What is that?" I said, "Living with stress and winning." This is close to your line. So he said to me, he said, "Well, Jim, what do you know about stress?" I said, "Nothing. I got to go to Barnes and Noble and buy a bunch of stress books." So I went and bought a whole bunch of books on stress. and I still got those pictures in my scrapbook. I was in their national newsletter. They flew employees in from out of town. Jim Ziegler, motivational therapist, is what I was calling myself.
Hey,
And I got $7,500 to do that event. In 1973 or 4, I forget which year it was, I got it in my scrapbook. And I didn't know anything about stress. I just put together a speech.
there you go.
I just went on a whole bunch of paperbacks and read them.
Well, but that's how you become an expert, though, Jim. You gotta educate yourself. Look, I think that is a sign of ingenuity, of taking initiative and finding a way. You took your gift the gab. You said, okay, well, hell, these people are stressed, so let me go ahead and find out how to, communicate that with winning. And look, you got paid handsomely for being able to deliver a message that changed probably the way that some of those people looked at their lives.
I got a picture of me wearing my leisure suit with my white belt and my white shoes. I'm doing a speech on living with stress and winning. And I went on to Tallahassee.
Okay.
I did a seminar on get your life together.
Okay.
Because I had attended EST and all those hippie seminars out in California. So I advertised on Tallahassee radio, and Jim Ziegler tonight at the Capitol Inn, free seminar. And the free seminar was to sell the paid seminar.
Okay.
I had several hundred people show up, and included was Judge Ziegler.
Judge Ziegler?
A lot of people don't know that Zig Ziglar had a brother who is also a professional speaker, and his birth certificate name is Judge Ziegler. So Judge Ziegler showed up at my seminar with an attorney because he thought I was impersonating Zig. And I said, no, my name is Jim Ziegler. I spell it differently. So I later on met Zig Ziglar at the National Speakers Association, to which you and I are both members.
Yep.
And Zig Ziglar used to say, I always misspell my name.
He said you misspelled his name?
He passed away, of course.
Yeah.
But that's how I met Judge Ziegler. Judge Ziegler also, Judge Ziegler has a book called Timid Salesmen Have Skinny Kids.
That's okay. They don't eat well.
That was Zig Ziglar's book. Timid salesmen have skinny kids. I think that's the title.
Yeah.
So tell me more about resilience. What people have testimonialed you about? I know you must be getting some people saying, "Man, that speech really helped me."
Yeah. Look, I have helped people recommit to their lives again who thought that everything was lost. I've had people recommit to their faith again in believing that there is a way to move forward and that there's a higher power. I've had companies tell me that their whole morale changed as a result of me coming and being able to share not just my story, but to see me. Like you said, Jim, I don't look like what I've been through. They would never think that I had went through the experience that I've gone through, just if they saw me. So that's been some of the biggest impacts that I've had. I've had sales teams say that they were inspired to go out and not let the challenges that they face keep them from going back and finding their success. And I think that part of resilience is, one of the things I emphasize is that the breakdowns and the challenges and the difficulties that we have, that it actually is a catalyst for positive growth. You're going to use these setbacks in order to help create your success. When you couldn't pay the rent that day, that was the catalyst for you to be able to do something completely different, but it created positive results in a way that you never would have had you not gone through that adversity. Now, I'm not saying that
I
you could have.
know that I had been a successful DJ,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and as a DJ, I was with one of the biggest radio stations in the country. And I transitioned. I was no longer a disc jockey. I was basically just living on my wits there for a couple of years. And uh, my roommate Jim Karpowicz, we had a 2-bedroom apartment. You know, he was divorced. I was divorced. We both going through a traumatic divorce, and uh, we moved into a singles complex. And I don't know if that's even legal now. That weren't even allowed to be married. It was called Century 21 Apartments in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was a wild party down place. You
I
know,
can
we're
imagine.
talking the 70s, and I had a friend, Tim Peeler, and Tim Peeler had an apartment across the way, and the Leonard Skinner boys would come by and jam at our apartment sometimes. And 38 Special Boys. Yeah,
Okay.
I grew up with all those guys.
Okay. That's crazy. I wouldn't. That's right in the same complex, huh?
Well, yeah, well, they didn't live there. I mean,
Right,
but they were the 38 Special Boys and the Leonard Skinner boys went to school with me, or Lee High School, which was another high school close by, west side of Jacksonville. I mean,
Okay.
you know, Billy Powell, the keyboard player, was a good friend of mine. We were in scouts together.
Okay.
You know, to show how far back some of that went. And I was a bar fighter and a drag racer. I mean,
It doesn't surprise me.
when I moved to from Jacksonville to Atlanta, and I met my wife, she pretty well reeled me in. You know, I had to give up the lifestyle that I had been accustomed to, and I changed quite a bit. And like I say, I'm a Christian, and proud of it. But you know, I see some people that they got a whole mouthful of Jesus, but they're not living it. You know,
Right. Yeah.
you know they're like the Pharisees in the Bible. They're out there praying in public. You know,
Yep.
and I see a lot of that. And when I got into the Speakers Association again, I dropped out during the cancer years and whatnot. And I got back. I saw you, and I got to know you a little bit.
Yep.
And I said, I got to get him on a broadcast. I got to get Tiran Jackson's, get your story out to the car business, because, I got 150,000 friends and followers on social media, and a lot of them are in the car business. And
Yep.
we'll have limited viewership on this live broadcast, but we will have thousands of people watch the replays.
No, that's great.
So if you're going to hire Tiran Jackson, what you got to, if you have a situation with your employees need resilience. I know we got the CK disaster going on now, the CDK disaster going on right now. A lot of your people probably a little depressed. Some of your dealers might be a little depressed. There might be a lot of need for resilience, and a speaker that talks about resilience and he lives the walks the walk and talks the talk. And he's walking the walk on a prosthetic leg.
That's right.
You're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. That's youtube.com/James A. Ziegler. Reshare this broadcast and go to the website Reborn Resilient and spell it right. I took me three times to get it right.
Third time's a charm.
RebornResilient.com. That is Tiran Jackson's personal website. If you want to hire Tiran, I'm talking to the people in the car business right now. Pay attention. You might want to hire Tiran to speak to your group or your association, your convention. I could say he's $10, $20, $30,000 a month. That he's well worth it. Whatever his speaking fee is, just don't even procrastinate. Just write the check.
There you go.
Just write the check. What else have we not talked about that we really should talk about today?
For
We got
people,
10 minutes.
yeah, 10 minutes. Well, first I want to make sure that people are aware of my flagship book. It's called Choosing Resilience. And if you go to choosingresilience.net, you'll find that you can order it. You can also order it on Amazon, but I prefer to be able to personally sign everybody's copy. So if you go to choosingresilience.net, you'll be able to find me speaking. Yes, you'll find me talking about how that book has changed so many lives. So that's one of the things that I really want to make sure people know. And then the other part, like we were talking about before, who my audience is. I do coaching as well for those, primarily those who are new into this space of widowhood, or widowers who are trying to basically regain control of their life after loss. You were in a state of being hopeless, but you want to be happy again, and you don't know how to make that happen. Part of that is having to overcome the trauma and the tragedy that you're facing. But then the other part of it is being able to build that resilience and then be able to design that life that you want and actually implement some of these skills that I'm talking about back here in order to achieve where you want to. It goes back to, everybody doesn't have that level of resilience, but it's .net, Jim.
See, I was so proud of myself.
Yep, you got the main part right, but it's .net.
I'm going to need some resilience training right now. So
Look, this is resilience training right now because, a lot of times when people they mess up or they hear no, then they get frustrated and quit. Being able to come back from being knocked down is one of the characteristics of being resilient that we may not realize we have or that we need. So look, we live in a world where you're destined to have some setback in life. And if you say you don't, then you're lying to me. But if you are really looking to change your life, I see people who are stuck all the time, and a year from now they'll be in the same place where they were, if not worse, knowing that they have the potential, knowing that they can make things happen, but they just don't put forth the effort to, or they don't have the consistency or accountability. These are the people who I help change their lives. So if this is you, or if this is somebody out there who is really looking to get that push, that jolt, but also,
are you doing workshops?
I'm doing workshops. I'm doing some workshops myself.
My background is seminars and workshops.
Yeah.
A keynote speech, you are at the mercy of a meeting planner. You're at the mercy of an agency, but I've done literally hundreds, if not 1,000 seminars, 28 conferences, big conferences, and when you do a conference, you can net up to $250,000. So you do a speech, you're going to get paid one time, and that's the end of it. But a seminar is one speaker or two speakers to a group of people. A conference is 20 or 30 speakers, sponsors, and it goes a little bigger. A conference is bigger than a seminar, But I teach seminars, and in my book that just came out recently. So you're a professional speaker. Why aren't you rich yet? Is about how to produce seminars and conferences, and you can find that on Amazon as well. So you're a professional speaker. Why aren't you rich yet? Or how come you're not rich yet? I can't do my own title. I need some resilience training. Okay.
you already got it. You forgot more resilience than I know. So, but no, that is one of the areas in which I got to grow, Jim. Doing more and more of those workshops, more and more conferences. I've done some, but I've been.
Where are you doing your conferences now?
I've done conferences largely here in Atlanta, in the Southeast.
Your seminars,
Yeah, so I've done a couple of small events myself, but I need to do some more seminars. So that's definitely a place where I need to push the needle and do more as far as a speaker. The
last one I did was in April here in Atlanta, and I had 17 attendees. It wasn't big, but they paid 1,500 each, so it was a good day. It cost me
Mhm.
about $1,000 to produce it, and so I'm back doing because I do a lot of virtual events. Are you doing
Okay.
anything virtually?
So that's how I've done most of my workshops in the past. I will promote. I used to do it every other Tuesday, but I used to do I do a workshop where I talk about how to get past just insurmountable challenges and show people a couple of strategies and skills on becoming more resilient, and then from there work to see if they want to be a part of working with me from a greater perspective. So. But I've got to get back in the habit and routine of that. I sort of fell off over the course of the past couple of months, but it's one of those things that, like you said, Jim, and you are the master at this, leveraging, not having to get on anybody else's stage, but creating your own. And so
Create your own stage, your own time frame, when you want to do it.
yep,
You're your own boss. You keep 100% of the proceeds. I mean, there's so many reasons to produce your own seminars and your own conferences when you get a little bigger.
yep.
And Debbie and I did 28 conferences. We did 25 internet battle plan conferences, 20 speakers, 20 sponsors, 250 attendees. We did 25 of those, and we did 3 super sales manager super conferences. And that was similar format, 20 speakers, 20 sponsors. And I had just done the last one when I when I came down with the cancer. I did one in September of 2019, and I was diagnosed in October.
Oh wow!
So I was operated on, and in February, and COVID happened right behind that. So it's been a while. I could have needed resilience training at that time because the whole paradigm changed.
Yep.
Your entire paradigm changed when you and Malika stepped on that boat.
Yep.
Your paradigm changed forever. I'm talking to Tiran Jackson. His book is Choosing Resilience, and I spelled it right this time. ChoosingResilience.net. Don't be a dumbass and put .com. .net. Okay. Yeah, okay. ChoosingResilience.net. Tiran Jackson. He's got one heck of a story. If you're just tuning in, go back to the beginning of the broadcast, watch the replay. It's incredible, the story this man's got to tell. And the work he's doing right now with people that are depressed, people that are suicidal, people that have had catastrophic events in their life. I mean, he's sitting here with pins in his body, a prosthetic leg. I mean, you never know it to be around the guy.
Yep. But I'm not just still standing, but I'm up here running, Jim. And there's no reason for anybody out there who's faced an obstacle, a challenge, some type of setback to feel like you can't do it. You need to keep pushing, keep moving forward. And I'm the man that can show you how. So.
Wave goodbye to the audience, big guy.
Hey, everybody have a good one. I hope to hear from you soon. Keep following this alpha dog. He's doing it. And so he's the man. And thank you, Jim, for letting me be a part of your platform.
Thank you for being here.
No problem.